Hello, dear friends. Igor Gorky on the Country TV channel. And here is I want to introduce you a brief um, review. And I would name this review the following way: War in Ukraine, Global Chaos, and a New World Order. We can see right now that the war in Ukraine brings the whole world to a global chaos because we can see the escalation of the conflict. We can see the spread of this conflict, that new countries, and that's already some, just a combination of countries, a set of countries, a group of countries becoming a part of this war from one and another side. I mean that Russia is not alone acting right now. They're acting together with the Belarus at least. And right now we can see the military support supplies from Iran and from North Korea, and we don't know still which way like other countries will behave themselves in this context. So also we can see the following consequence of this war. We can see that that the basic concept of non-distribution of nuclear weapons around the world as the mean to preserve the world from the nuclear catastrophe works opposite. The problem that Ukraine, upon the Budapest Agreement of 1984, did agree to transmit all nuclear weapons, some strategic aviation and missiles, to Russia. Uh, and for that, Ukraine was promised that it promised by just a group of countries, including the United States, France, Germany, that the territorial integrity of the country will be guaranteed. But right now we can see that the countries who guaranteed upon the Budapest Memorandum the territorial integrity of Ukraine, they tell that this is a wrong paper. It was made in the wrong way, and that's why it's mostly like a moral support for territorial integrity, but not a functional. But the problem that nuclear weapon was transmitted from Ukraine to Russia, uh, indeed, by the matter of fact, functionally, and the paper turned to be fake, the one which guaranteed this territorial integrity. The consequence is the following: that it shows clearly that for each nation, each country, the best way to secure themselves from external aggression is to develop their own nuclear weapons, and that all countries, maybe from Vatican to Brazil, Canada, and whomever, must develop their own nuclear weapons. That's the only way to guarantee the effective defense in this case. Uh, on the other hand, if all the nationalities will have their own nuclear weapons, who knows? Maybe one nation one day will apply this nuclear weapon, and then it can bring to the nuclear catastrophe around the globe. So just that's not the fixage of the problem. That's a consequence of the problem which is not fixed. And the non-fixed problem is the real absence of effective and of reliable system of international security. The current international organizations, as well as um, uh, as the governments around the world, they are not capable to provide this, just effective system of international security. United Nations, they look like they are mostly formal procedural organization. They have some tools to influence in some conflicts. In relation to the League of Nations, which was a preparant or a preparant of the United Nations. The League of Nations, it was just a club of this it kind of a club where the key nationalities discussed the issues of international security. So it was mostly a formal place. Just a formal tool, but not a real functional tool. United Nations, they have the tools of influence like economic, financial, um, mm, humanitarian, etc. But really, looks like they have no effective military tools. And when we have the problem of aggression. It's mostly, I mean, just it's the matter of application of military weapons, its involvement of armies. And the United Nations didn't show that they are reliable from this point to somehow to counteract these kind of aggressions. We can remember only that the United Nations troops participated in the Korean War, although mostly it were United States Army, but anyway, it was under the flag of the United Nations, but looks like it was the first and the last precedent when the United Nations showed something, how they can, I mean, just provide international security in if the military conflict show up. So uh, the problem is that Ukraine is attacked by Russia for its political reorientation to become a democratic country. By the way, the same happened with Georgia, and it was attacked in 2008. So it means that if the nation would like to become a democratic nation, so it can be attacked by the autocracy, but it's not effectively defended or by democratic countries. The democratic countries, the democratic community, the Western countries, Western democracies were capable from the military industrial point to prevent the war in Ukraine. But even now, they dose the weapons to Ukraine, and so we can see huge victims and damages and restrictions on the territory of Ukraine. So although there is a military, economic, and political assistance to Ukraine, it is dosed so much that it is not a reliable way to perform the international security. So we can see that democracies are the problem from this point, because looks like they have like three dysfunctions or three kind of problems which we discussed in our previous video releases, and they are the momentary venality, when the business economic interests and short-term fast I mean just fast intentions are dominating over social interests, social norms, and over long-term interests, and then that's the uh, uh, procedural form dominates over the functional content. Uh, so uh, it means that we can take and we accept the fact that democracy is much more advanced form of social organization than autocracy, and it's the best form of social organization which exists today. That's one side of the fact. The other side of the fact is that democracies are not really reliable to provide uh, uh, to provide effective international security, in effective development, social development of the world. And it means that people have to think about organization of post-democratic um, social forms, I mean, just which will be able to overcome those shortages and dysfunctions which are contained in the algorithm of the behavior of democracies. We can see also one more problem. I mean, just which comes out of this war. It is the problem of the recognition of the facts. For instance, the U.S. Congress asked uh, the administration of the United States to recognize Russia as a sponsor of terrorism, and the executive power refuses to do that. So, but the democracy, we know, is based on the principle of separation of powers. So where is the judicial power? We can see the conflict. The Congress tells Russia is a sponsor of terrorism, and executive power tells no, Russia is not a sponsor of terrorism. So then, due to the logics of the power separation, it means that judicial power, like a kind of Supreme Court, has to decide that Russia or the sponsor of terrorism or it is not. And then it should be the final decision. But we do not see uh, this um, this being happen. Why? Because everybody, it's obviously that Russia uh, uh, commits war crimes, kind of genocide, and terrorizing of the civil population. Uh, that is obvious, but from the point of political reasonability, they don't want to recognize it. And so that's why they don't take the needed measures to, just to resolve the issue with this aggression. But if it to look much more deeper, then if such a judicial system will work, then it will make the Western governments, the Western democracy, to react to the Russian aggression, to the development of aggressive political organism inside of Russia, long far ago, when just Mr. Putin came to power. But they did not, and the Western countries collaborated with Russia. Right now, we hear from Ukraine that some missiles which are launched from Russia to kill Ukrainians and destroy, the country, like 85% of spare parts are imported from United States, Germany, France, and some other Western countries. So looks like, I mean, there is indirect involvement of the Western community in aggression against Ukraine. Of course, it was not intentional, but it is the fact, and this fact has to be, and we have to just make adequate conclusions out of that. So, which kind of conclusions we have to make? I think that first of all, we need to have completely different system of international security. We have to have um, mm, international organizations which have their own military forces and which are acted independently from those countries by those who they organized, so that they will not be affected by the clan, elite, or governmental like interests, different kind of, just incorrect behavior, um, venality, just and so on and so on. Then, of course, the question, but so who will make the decision to apply the military force? And I think that the best way will be to organize on a global scale, uh, like uh, development of academic and civil expert community on a platform which will have an algorithm which will be able to make this community proper and independent expert decisions. And these expert decisions should be the final judgment for these international security boards to apply economic, political, or military force against aggression. Also, the prevention of aggression, which is already active, just it's a not effective way also to struggle against such kind of aggression, because it involves a lot of economic resources. It involves it can be followed by a lot of victims and damages. And so the best way to prevent aggression is to neutralize it on the way of its formation. And we can see how it's formed. Usually, the first stage of the formation of aggression is the uh, violation of human rights in a tough way in their own countries, or um, like military activities inside the country against the nationalities which inhabit these countries. So from this point, just we can agree with the basic principle of international security which was established by the United Nations. Just the security of borders of the countries after the Second World War. At the same time, just so that's no one country has the allowance to change the borders if they did not agree with another country. I mean, just the borders. Uh, I mean, just which is the part of this border issue. At the same time, I think that if the government start acts very tough, including the mass application of police force and military force against the nation, it means that one day this country will come will get on the path of aggression against another countries. That's actually like it shows that the country is on the path to the total aggression. We can see the clear example for that is Belarus. Like several years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when the president of Belarus declared himself, I mean, just again, the president, despite the results of the election, and then the revolution arose in the country, then it was cruelly suppressed. And the Western governments did really nothing to protect the population of this country. Finally, we can see that right now Belarus is a protectorate of Russia, and it's actively participates in the war in aggression against Ukraine. And right now they also declared they are going to cancel their non-nuclear status. So it means that they can take the nuclear weapons from Russia and apply it against the Western community as well. So that's the consequence. It's this consequence which is a danger for nations, for all nations, including West European nations, including the American nation, and all other nations. So, how to explain? Russia, if aggressor will not be stopped, he will destroy everybody. And Russian aggression is right now in Ukraine. It's actually on the way to the United States. And the Ukraine turned out to be right on this way. So why they're taking war in Ukraine? Because they are on the way to the United States. And if the United States will not effectively resist the Russian aggression, so one day they will see Russian soldiers on the streets of Seattle, Washington, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and Miami. And from this point, I think that the war in Ukraine, it is a core, it's in core defense of Ukraine, is in core interests of the American nation, of all voters of the United States. And so if they have adequate point of view concerning how the global crises, how the aggressors are developing, they should realize this issue, that when one day they will become the victims as well. And so right now, I mean, just they have to think it despite they are in the zone of comfort, because they are not the current victims of this aggression. So, what else? What else? Uh, uh, who will be able to initiate such changes in the establishment of a new world order? Unfortunately, we can see that the algorithm of democracies, as well as the algorithm of all these international organizations like United Nations and NATO, they do not allow them not only not to act adequately and effectively, but also they don't allow them to change themselves. They cannot be reformated. So from this point, we can find right now some favorable soil on the globe where we can grow up the new structures of the international security. And right now it is Ukraine, because right now Ukraine is under the jeopardy uh, its uh, its destruction, of disappearance of the whole nation, and that makes themselves take, I mean, just the adequate decisions from this point of view. Yes, we have to recognize that before this war, Ukraine also behaved themselves a little bit not adequately towards the potential threat from Russia. They gave strategic aviation a lot of missiles, not nuclear missiles, nuclear weapons to Russia. They had the problem of corruption, and the part of the Ukrainian population, they had some kind of Soviet nostalgia, and so they, just they had points of view that they can develop like together with Russia or in the Russian political pathway, some kind of. But right now, when this war occurred and the nation faced huge victims, right now that's, just mostly exceptions who still share this kind of views towards the political development. Most of Ukrainians are not accept anymore the like political affiliation with the Russian government or with the Russian um, political attitudes on one hand, and right now they have so much damages and they have so much problems with the defense that right now they have to think about the development of the military industry, of high tech technologies, and it means that's the only way to develop the country is to kill the corruption inside the country. Otherwise, the country will die. And right now, they are the most interested for self survive to survive, and just they can be the best initiators of like creating new kind of orders. They made this platform United 24, but so I think that's just it's a good time also to speak about the structure when the nationalities, those who can face this threat of being defeated, being becoming victims of this aggression so clearly and close that they can be ready to organize some international troops one day. And also, just Ukraine just Ukraine. They show that they are changing pretty much because right now they're turning from the country a victim of the Russian aggression into a country of regional and global leadership. Regional leadership is showed up right. We can see it because the Ukrainian government right now supports and sponsors the organization of political and military structures of Russian resistance, of Belarus resistance, and of resistance of ethnic nationalities which inhabit Russia. Actually, we can speak about the formation of Russian military divisions as a part of the Ukrainian forces for now, with the future of a resistance army on the territory of Russia. We can see also Belarus military divisions, which one day can cross the border and become a resistance power inside of Belarus. And we can see also Chechen military divisions, which one day will come to establish the independence of Chechnya in Russia. Also, we can see the political processes uh, of discussions of the minorities, national minorities which inhabit Russia, and the discussions about how to become independent, how to decolonize Russia, and how to finish the problem of the Russian Empire and of imperialistic, aggressive behavior of the country, how to establish the lasting peace on the post-Soviet Eurasian space. This is from the regional point. And on the global point, once again, Ukraine right now initiates different reforms of the United Nations and like new kind of tools like United 24. But once again, I would think that maybe the government of Ukraine and the Ukrainian academic and civil community may consider the prospects of initiating of a global academic and civil expert community, which will be independent from any government, including independent from the government of Ukraine. But right now, Ukraine is the best place. Is the best political structure will can initiate this process because all other countries looks like they're not interested. They have their um, conservatively organized academic structures which act in the framework of the political attitudes of their governments and political elites or business elites like that. So, mm, um, so I think that This way, one day, the new international security system can be organized, and it will bring to the new kind of international order when the governments will not be allowed to persecute roughly their people or to suppress the peoples which are living on the territory of a multinational country, or to make aggressions against the other already existing independent states. And the best tool will be the the independent and maximum correct and objective decision of the independent academic and civil expert community, and the implementation of this expert conclusion of this I mean just civil structure as a command for international forces to neutralize the aggression or to neutralize the signs of growing of the aggressive potential in some part of the globe. So this is the main idea which I tried to share with you in this brief video review, and I would like to see you in my next videos. Thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye. See you again.